Welcome to the last little video on indices. Today's lesson looks at putting all three rules of indices together. I'm just going to talk you quickly through the three rules that we've looked at. So we've got rule 1, which looks at multiplying terms together which have the same base, and the way that we process the indices if we're multiplying is we simply add them together. Rule 2, again, if the terms have the same base and we're dividing them, then we can set it up as a fraction, and then we subtract the indices. The order of this one important, so the first term's index comes first and we subtract the second one, or the index from the numerator, we subtract the index from the denominator from that. Rule 3, we've got a term with a power being raised to another power, and in this case we take the two powers and we multiply those together. So I'm just going to look at two examples, one of them that just looks at rule 1 and 2, and then one that actually puts all three rules together in one question. So let's take a wee look at them. And we're going to start with this one on the left, and we can see we've got two things going on. We've got multiplication and we've got division. Okay, and generally speaking, we tend to go through the rules in order with these questions, but you've kind of got to just use your common sense and think, what bit do I need to process first to allow me to process the rest? So let's take this one step at a time. We're going to focus on the numerator. We're going to focus just on this little section here. So if this was our question, this is from lesson 1, if I want to just multiply these two things together, then I add the indices. Yeah, so I've got x to the power of 5 multiplied by x to the power of 4 gives me x to the power of 9, adding those indices together. What I've not dealt with yet, and so I need to keep it in the question, is I've not divided by x cubed. When we are dividing, this is rule number 2, we subtract the indices. So in this case, we're going to take our two indices and we're going to subtract them from one another. The base is the same, and again, the question wouldn't work if we had different bases, and so we are going to be taking our x, and we've got 9, subtract 3, remember order important, so the one from the numerator, subtract the one from the denominator, and that gives me a final answer of x to the power of 6. Over to the second example now, and we've got all three rules being combined in one question here. We have got multiplication, we've got division, and then we've got the whole thing raised to another power. And again, we're going to typically work through this in the rule that the indices come, but again, you might need some common sense for some questions. So let's start with the top line. So we're just going to focus first of all again on the numerator, which is here, and we're looking at multiplication. I've chucked in a wee negative here just to make this a bit more complex. So we've got y to the power of 7 multiplying y to the negative 2. Remember, what we do with the indices when we're multiplying is we add. The base is the same, so we're still dealing with y's. 7 plus negative 2, remember adding negatives like subtraction, so that now becomes y to the power of 5. I've only processed the top line, I've not processed the denominator or this power, so they're all still in the question. So this is still being divided by y cubed, and it's still all to the power of 3. Okay, now we're going to do our subtraction. Just move my board up. So we've got y to the power of 5 divided by y cubed this time. So now what we're doing, when we're dividing, we subtract those indices from one another. The base, still y. 5 take away 3, numerator subtract denominator, gives me y squared. Now I've done the division, I've still not processed this extra power. So it's still there, and here's my rule 3. Y squared, all cubed. In this case, rule 3 tells us to multiply those indices together. 2 times 3 gives me a final answer of y to the power of 6. Again, hopefully that's been helpful. Feel free to go back through the video and watch those a little bit more slowly, and then you'll be able to try today's task.